Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered why love feels harder than ever? Why, no matter how much you give, it never seems to give back the same way? We live in a world where everyone craves connection, but few truly know how to connect. We chase chemistry, confuse it for compatibility, and call chaos passion. But what if the reason so many are struggling in love has nothing to do with finding the right person, and everything to do with how we've been taught to love? Because the truth is, it's not love that's failing us, it's the way we've been loving that's breaking our hearts. And ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something we all feel but rarely admit out loud: why so many people today are struggling in love. We scroll through highlight reels of perfect relationships online, watch couples who seem to have it all figured out, and quietly wonder, why not me? We tell ourselves that love should just happen, that if we meet the right person, everything will flow naturally. But love, real love, doesn't struggle because we lack opportunity. It struggles because we lack understanding. And we have built a world that celebrates connection but doesn't teach us how to connect. We've become fluent in texting but lost the ability to truly communicate. We crave closeness, yet we fear vulnerability, and that, right there, is the heart of why so many are struggling. We want intimacy without risk. We want loyalty without effort. We want passion without patience. But love has always been a paradox. It demands that we give what we fear to lose. And the truth is, most people are not struggling because love doesn't exist for them. They're struggling because they're chasing a version of love that isn't real. They've been conditioned to believe that chemistry equals compatibility, that butterflies mean a soulmate, that drama means depth. But what if the very feelings you chase are the ones that keep you from the kind of relationship you truly deserve? And we are drawn to what feels familiar, not necessarily what's good for us. If chaos was what you grew up around, calm might feel boring. If inconsistency was what you learned to accept, stability might feel unnatural. And so, without even realizing it, we end up choosing the same emotional patterns over and over again, convincing ourselves that this time it's different when deep down it's not. We don't fall in love with people, we fall in love with patterns, and when you start to break those patterns, something powerful happens. You begin to realize that love isn't about finding someone to complete you. It's about finding someone who complements you while you're already whole. The reason so many people are struggling in love is because they've made love a replacement for self-worth. They look for someone else to validate what they haven't yet learned to value in themselves, and you can't receive the kind of love you aren't ready to hold. If you're starving for attention, you'll settle for crumbs. If you're desperate for validation, you'll tolerate disrespect. If you're afraid of being alone, you'll cling to anyone who stays. Love requires fullness. It requires boundaries. It requires the courage to say, I am enough, even if you don't choose me. Because the moment your happiness depends on another person's approval, you stop being a partner and start being a prisoner. And we've made love about possession instead of presence. We talk about people as if they belong to us. My person, my other half, my forever. But love isn't ownership, it's appreciation. It's waking up every day and choosing to see the person in front of you as someone who could leave, but chooses to stay. That's what makes it powerful. The fragility of love is not its weakness, it's its beauty. But here's another truth. So many people are struggling in love because they never learned how to be in love, only how to fall in love. Falling is easy, it's effortless, it's the rush of adrenaline, the spark, the infatuation. Being in love is work. It's consistency when the excitement fades. It's curiosity when the mystery is gone. It's saying, I choose you, even when life tests your patience, your ego, and your heart. Falling in love is instinctive. Staying in love is intentional. And the reason so many struggle is because we confuse the two. We think the end of the honeymoon phase means something is wrong. But love isn't supposed to stay on fire forever. It's supposed to grow roots. Passion brings you together, but purpose keeps you there. The most beautiful relationships aren't built on constant intensity. They're built on steady commitment, small gestures, and mutual respect. And we've been sold the idea that love should feel like fireworks. But fireworks burn out fast. Real love feels like warmth, not sparks. It's not chaos, it's calm. It's not constant highs, it's quiet strength. It's two people who decide that no matter what, they're going to show up over and over again. That's not cinematic, but it's real. And so many are struggling because they're measuring love by how it starts, not how it sustains. They want to be chosen, but they don't know how to choose wisely. They want connection, but they build walls disguised as independence. They want loyalty, but they treat vulnerability like weakness. Love can't thrive where fear is in control. Fear makes us defensive, distant, suspicious. But love, true love, requires surrender. Not of your standards, not of your self-respect, but of your armor. And that's hard, isn't it? Because we've all been hurt. We've all trusted someone who broke our heart, and the brain remembers pain more vividly than it remembers joy. So, we protect ourselves. We say, I'll never let that happen again. But in protecting ourselves from being hurt, we often protect ourselves from being loved. And the people who find lasting love aren't the ones who never got hurt. They're the ones who decided not to let pain make them bitter. They learned to discern without becoming cynical. They learned to guard their hearts without closing them. Because you can't receive love through walls. You can only receive it through openness. And many people today struggle because they confuse attraction with alignment. Just because someone excites you doesn't mean they're good for you. Just because someone understands your pain doesn't mean they can heal it. And just because someone wants you doesn't mean they value you. The right person won't just desire you. They'll respect your peace, nurture your growth, and inspire your best self. And love will always mirror your level of self-awareness. If you don't know what you need, you'll keep chasing what feels familiar. But when you get clear, when you understand what your heart requires and what your boundaries are, love becomes simpler. Not easier, but simpler. You stop trying to convince people to choose you. You stop chasing potential. You stop calling inconsistency passion. And we're all learning. None of us were born knowing how to love well. But you can start by being the kind of partner you wish to attract. Honest, curious, compassionate, accountable. Love isn't a transaction, it's a transformation. Every relationship, whether it lasts or not, is an opportunity to evolve, to understand yourself better, to learn what you will and will not accept. And so many are struggling in love because they think love should save them. But love isn't a rescue mission. It's a collaboration between two people who are already standing on their own feet. When you stop expecting someone else to heal what's broken inside you, Love stops being about survival and starts being about growth. And because real love doesn't complete you, it expands you. It challenges you to grow beyond your fears, to open your heart even when it's risky, and to believe that you are worthy, not because someone says so, but because you finally know so. And maybe that's the lesson. Love doesn't show up to fix you. It shows up to reveal you. It mirrors back the parts of you still learning to believe that you are enough, just as you are. And that realization, that love reveals you more than it rescues you, changes everything. It forces you to look at yourself not as a victim of bad luck in love, but as a participant in your own patterns. Because the truth is, love doesn't just happen to you. You attract it, shape it, nurture it, or push it away based on who you are in that moment. Every relationship you enter is a mirror reflecting where you stand in your emotional growth. And if you're still struggling in love, it's not because you're broken. It's because there's a part of you that's still learning what healthy love feels like. And the hard part is that growth often feels like loss at first. It feels like losing people you thought would stay forever. It feels like losing the comfort of familiar chaos. It feels like walking away from something that once made you feel alive, even though you know it's not good for you anymore. But that's the cost of evolution. You can't hold on to peace and toxicity at the same time. You can't grow while you're still clinging to what hurts you. And many people struggle in love because they keep waiting for the right person to make things easy, instead of becoming the right person who knows how to make things work. They romanticize the idea of being chosen, but forget that love is also about choosing wisely. Love isn't about waiting for someone perfect. It's about preparing yourself for someone real. It's not about hoping someone will come along and understand every part of you effortlessly. It's about learning to communicate clearly so that understanding can exist in the first place. And the most beautiful thing you can ever do for your future relationship is to learn how to be emotionally safe for yourself and for the person you're with. Emotional safety isn't about never arguing or never disagreeing. It's about knowing you can express your truth without fear of rejection. It's about creating an environment where honesty doesn't start wars, it builds trust. But that only happens when you stop seeing vulnerability as weakness and start seeing it as the doorway to intimacy. And love asks for your openness. It asks you to show up even when you're scared, to lean in even when your instinct is to pull away. And that's uncomfortable because to love is to risk. You risk being misunderstood. You risk being hurt. You risk being disappointed. But without that risk, you never get the reward. You never get the depth. You never get the kind of connection that changes your life. The walls you build to protect yourself from pain also keep out joy. And at some point, you have to decide what's more important, safety or fulfillment. And people struggle in love because they chase the high instead of the harmony. They want constant fireworks, constant validation, constant reassurance. But love doesn't grow in intensity, it grows in depth. The couples who last aren't the ones who never doubt or never fight. They're the ones who keep coming back to each other after the doubt, after the fight, after the silence. They learn how to repair instead of replace, and that's a skill that's disappearing in modern love. And we live in a culture that tells us to move on at the first sign of discomfort. Someone annoys you, block them. Someone disagrees with you, label them toxic. Someone doesn't meet your expectations, replace them. but love doesn't thrive in constant escape. It thrives in repair, it thrives in patience, it thrives in understanding that two people can both be flawed and still be right for each other as long as they're willing to grow together. And that's the problem today. Too many people are waiting for the feeling of love to do the work of love. They think relationships are about finding someone who never triggers their insecurities, but the right person won't prevent your triggers, they'll help you face them. The right relationship isn't one without problems, it's one where both people are committed to solving them together. And love is not about perfection, it's about perseverance. It's about waking up on the hard days and deciding to show up anyway. It's about communicating when you'd rather shut down. It's about staying curious about your partner even after years together. Because love doesn't die from conflict, it dies from neglect, it dies from complacency, it dies when people stop trying to understand each other. And if you've ever wondered why love keeps slipping through your fingers, maybe it's because you've been chasing the feeling, not the foundation. Feelings fade, foundations last, the butterflies will go away, but trust remains, the thrill will settle, but respect sustains. Passion might flicker, but partnership endures. Love isn't just about how someone makes you feel, it's about how they make you grow. And that's where many go wrong. They choose the person who makes them feel excited, not the one who makes them feel safe. They choose intensity over consistency. They confuse anxiety with attraction. They crave the chase because it distracts them from stillness, the kind of stillness that forces them to face themselves. But the truth is, healthy love often feels calm, and calm feels strange if you've spent your life mistaking chaos for care. And when someone genuinely loves you, it won't always feel dramatic. It'll feel steady. It'll feel like peace. It'll feel like a deep breath after years of holding it in. And that's when the real work begins, not to maintain excitement, but to deepen connection. Because real love isn't about keeping things new. It's about making the familiar meaningful. And people are struggling in love not because love is rare, but because presence is. Because patience is. Because accountability is. Love can't survive where ego leads. If your pride is more important than your peace, love will always feel like a battlefield. But when both people learn to put connection above being right, love begins to heal instead of hurt. And every person you meet in love is a mirror reflecting back your readiness. Some mirrors show you your wounds. Others show you your growth. Every heartbreak teaches you something if you're willing to listen. The pain you feel after losing someone is not just about them. It's about what they represented. Maybe they represented your hope, your worth, or your need to be seen. But that's your work to do, because love can't carry the weight of the things you haven't healed. And the truth is, love will meet you at your level of self-awareness. If you're still living in survival mode, you'll find someone who keeps you there. If you've grown into peace, you'll attract someone who values it too. That's why your most important relationship is the one you have with yourself, because it sets the tone for every other relationship you'll ever have. And when you start treating yourself with respect, you'll stop accepting disrespect. When you start nurturing your peace, you'll stop confusing chaos for connection. When you start loving yourself fully, you won't chase love that costs you your self-worth. The love you give yourself teaches others how to love you. And so many people are waiting for someone to love them the way they wish they could love themselves. They think if they just find the right person, the emptiness will disappear. But emptiness isn't cured by another person. It's cured by presence, by purpose, by the realization that you already are everything you've been waiting for someone else to prove. And when you reach that place when you no longer need love but simply desire it, you attract a different kind of connection. One that's not built on fear of losing, but gratitude for sharing. One that's not about fixing each other, but about building together. One that doesn't take away your power, but multiplies it. And that's when love becomes freedom. Freedom to be fully seen without hiding. Freedom to grow without guilt. Freedom to choose each other every day, not out of dependency, but out of devotion. And that kind of love doesn't just happen. It's created, it's protected, it's earned. And most people are struggling in love because they're still searching for magic instead of meaning. They're chasing validation instead of connection. But love was never meant to be a performance. It was meant to be a practice. The practice of listening, the practice of patience, the practice of forgiveness, the practice of showing up again and again, even when it's inconvenient. And that's the quiet truth about love. It's not about what it gives you, it's about what it asks of you. It asks for your honesty, your vulnerability, your effort, and your humility. It asks you to evolve, to let go, to open up, to trust again. And if you can do that, if you can meet love with courage instead of fear, you stop struggling, you stop searching for perfection. You start experiencing love as it was meant to be, real, imperfect, and deeply human. And because the truth is, love was never meant to be a fairy tale. It was meant to be a classroom. Every relationship you've ever been in, whether it lasted a decade or a day, has been teaching you something about yourself, about your capacity to give, your ability to receive, your tolerance for pain, and your boundaries for peace. And yet, so many people walk away from relationships only remembering the hurt. They forget to ask the most important question of all: what did this teach me about me? And when you stop blaming and start learning, love transforms. The moment you see your heartbreak not as punishment, but as education, everything changes. You begin to understand that love doesn't fail just because it ends. Sometimes love ends because you've graduated, because that chapter taught you what you needed to know for the next one. The mistake many people make is thinking that every person who enters their life is meant to stay forever. But some people aren't meant to stay, they're meant to awaken something. And maybe that's what's happening for you right now. Maybe love didn't work out because it was never meant to complete your story. It was meant to push you toward the version of yourself that's ready for real love. You see, most people think heartbreak is a sign that something went wrong, but often heartbreak is a sign that something went right, that you were brave enough to open your heart, that you were willing to feel deeply, that you were courageous enough to try, because love in all its forms requires courage. And that's why people struggle, because courage and comfort can't coexist. Love will stretch you. It will expose your insecurities. It will test your patience. It will show you parts of yourself you didn't know were there. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be real. And real means sometimes it hurts, but that pain isn't proof that love is broken. It's proof that love is working to build something stronger inside you. And the more you grow, the more you realize that love is not about possession, it's about partnership. It's not about control, it's about cooperation. It's not about finding someone who fills your emptiness, it's about finding someone who expands your fullness. Love asks you to show up whole, not hollow, but that's where so many of us struggle. We walk into relationships half healed, hoping someone else will do the rest of the work. And when they don't, we call it disappointment, when really it's a reflection. And the love you receive will always mirror the love you give yourself. If you treat yourself as an afterthought, you'll attract people who do the same. If you don't value your boundaries, you'll attract people who test them. If you constantly put others first, you'll attract those who take and never give back. The world reflects the energy you lead with. That's why the real work of love isn't about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right energy. And so many people ask, why does love keep hurting me? But maybe the question should be, why do I keep choosing what hurts me? We mistake familiarity for fate. We chase people who feel like home, even if home was never peaceful. We think we're drawn to their soul, when really, we're drawn to our unhealed wounds. And until we face that, we'll keep replaying the same love story, just with different characters, and healing changes your type. The moment you start valuing peace over drama, respect over attention, consistency over charm, you'll notice your standards shift. You'll stop being impressed by who texts back fast and start being moved by who shows up with depth. You'll stop falling for words and start paying attention to actions. You'll stop needing constant reassurance because you've built that safety within yourself. And love becomes less about how they make you feel and more about how you feel around them. Can you be yourself? Can you speak freely? Can you be vulnerable without fear of judgment? Those are the real questions that define emotional connection. Yet, so many people are stuck chasing intensity because they've never experienced peace that didn't feel dull. But peace isn't boring, it's healing. And healing feels unfamiliar until you've had enough chaos to know the difference. And love isn't about finding someone who never challenges you. It's about finding someone who challenges you with kindness, who helps you grow without tearing you down, who makes you feel safe even when they hold you accountable. That kind of love doesn't come from luck. It comes from alignment, from two people who have both done their inner work. And that's why the waiting seasons matter, the times when you're single, the times when you're unsure. Those are not empty seasons, they're sacred ones. That's when you build the foundation that future love will stand on. That's when you learn what you need, what you can give, and what you will never compromise again. Don't rush through that process. The person who's ready for real love uses their solitude to prepare, not to despair. And you can't meet a healthy partner while you're still attached to your pain. You can't attract stability while you're addicted to chaos. And you can't experience deep love while you're still afraid of being alone. The more you fill your life with meaning, purpose, and peace, the less you'll need someone to complete you. You'll start looking for someone to join you, and that shift, from needing to choosing, is the difference between love that drains and love that sustains. And it's not love that hurts, it's attachment to the wrong people. It's the stories we tell ourselves about why we have to stay. It's the fear of starting over, but starting over isn't failure, it's freedom. It's proof that you learned something. That you're brave enough to leave behind what no longer aligns with your growth. Because love without growth isn't love, it's stagnation. And the reason so many people are struggling is because they think love should always feel good. But sometimes love's greatest gift is discomfort. Discomfort that shows you where you still need healing, discomfort that pushes you to speak up, discomfort that teaches you self-respect. Love isn't supposed to make you lose yourself. It's supposed to make you find yourself. And finding yourself doesn't mean becoming perfect before you love again. It means becoming aware, aware of your patterns, aware of your triggers, aware of the way you show up. Because awareness is power. Once you see your old patterns, you can't unsee them. You begin to pause before reacting. You begin to choose differently. That's growth, and growth changes everything about the way you love. And because now, instead of chasing what excites you, you choose what respects you. Instead of confusing attention with affection, you value effort over intensity. Instead of begging to be chosen, you walk away when you're not appreciated. That's when love stops being chaos and starts being clarity. And you stop waiting for someone to fix you and realize that love was never supposed to heal your wounds. It was supposed to walk beside you while you healed them. You stop searching for perfection and start appreciating presence. You stop needing grand gestures because consistency becomes the most romantic thing you've ever known. And when you reach that place, love becomes simple not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. Because it no longer comes from fear, because it's no longer about filling a void, because it's no longer about proving your worth. Love that comes from wholeness is love that lasts. It's not a roller coaster, it's a rhythm. It's two people growing at their own pace, but always moving in the same direction. And love, at its core, is not found, it's built. It's built through daily choices, small moments, and mutual effort. It's built when two people decide to keep showing up even when it's inconvenient. And it's built when both understand that love isn't about ownership, but about stewardship, taking care of each other's hearts with gentleness and respect. And the world is full of people craving connection but terrified of being seen. But love only grows where truth lives. You can't be loved for who you are if you're always pretending to be who you think they want. That's why authenticity is magnetic. It attracts what's meant for you and repels what's not. The moment you stop performing, you make space for something real. And so if love has been hard for you, maybe it's not because you're unlovable. Maybe it's because the version of love you were taught isn't the version you're meant to keep repeating. You're not here to chase, to prove, or to beg for love. You're here to embody it, to live it, to share it from a place of strength, not scarcity. And because when you finally learn that lesson, when you stop running from yourself, you'll realize love was never lost. It was just waiting for you to come home. And coming home to yourself is the quiet revolution that changes everything about how you love. Because when you come home to yourself, you no longer search for shelter in other people. You stop needing someone to rescue you from your loneliness because you've learned how to sit with it, how to listen to it, how to understand it. Loneliness stops being a punishment and starts being a teacher. It teaches you the difference between being alone and being abandoned. It teaches you how to stand tall even when no one is standing next to you. And that strength becomes the foundation upon which real love can finally rest. And the reason so many people keep losing themselves in love is because they've never learned how to keep themselves while loving someone else. They think love means merging, blending, becoming one, but love isn't about losing your identity, it's about expanding it. The healthiest relationships aren't made of two halves that complete each other, but of two wholes that complement one another. You don't dissolve into the other person, you evolve beside them, but that requires knowing who you are first. It requires the courage to be alone long enough to discover your values, your limits, your truth. Because if you don't know your own values, you'll borrow someone else's. If you don't know your own worth, you'll accept less than you deserve. Love can only go as deep as your understanding of yourself allows it to. The more self-awareness you have, the deeper your love can grow, and yet that's where most people stop short. They crave connection but avoid introspection. They want intimacy without vulnerability. They want to be known but fear being seen. But love, real love, can't exist in hiding. You can't experience closeness while you're performing. The mask you wear to impress will eventually become the barrier that keeps you from being loved authentically. Because what good is being loved for a version of yourself you don't even believe in? And to stop struggling in love, you must be willing to show up as you are, not as who you think someone wants. The right person doesn't need your perfection, they need your honesty, they need your truth, they need your presence. When you stop pretending, you give love a chance to breathe, to grow in real soil instead of the illusion of it. Authenticity is the bridge between solitude and connection. It's where you meet someone who sees you, really sees you, and says, "I'm not going anywhere." But love also asks for humility. It asks you to admit when you're wrong, to apologize without pride, to listen even when you'd rather defend. That's what makes relationships hard, not the arguments themselves, but our unwillingness to let go of the need to be right. Pride is the silent killer of love, because when your ego leads, connection fades. Love doesn't need perfection, it needs compassion. It needs two people who are willing to grow through their mistakes instead of running from them. And so many people are struggling because they think love is supposed to be effortless. But effortless love doesn't exist, it's a myth. Every deep connection you admire has been built on work, the work of patience, of forgiveness, of communication, of showing up. You can't expect a lifelong connection if you only want to invest in the easy parts. It's in the tough moments, the miscommunications, the disappointments, the misunderstandings where true love is forged. Those moments reveal whether two people can work together or simply coexist until the next high. And love doesn't just test you with conflict. It tests you with time. It asks, can you still see me when life gets busy? Can you still prioritize me when things get hard? Can you still be kind when you're tired? Love lives in the small things, the text that says, thinking of you, the hug that says, I'm here, the patience that says, I choose you even when it's not easy. That's what real connection looks like. It's built not on grand gestures, but on consistent care. And the truth is, love isn't always a lightning strike. Sometimes it's a slow sunrise, sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's subtle, but that's where its strength lies, in the steadiness. The kind of love that lasts doesn't demand to be seen. It simply shows up over and over again. But to receive that kind of love, you have to stop mistaking boredom for peace. You have to stop chasing chaos just because it's what you're used to. Peace doesn't need to prove itself. It just is, and maybe that's why love feels so foreign to so many, because we've been taught that love should always be dramatic, that it should make us lose our minds, that it should consume us. But love isn't supposed to consume you, it's supposed to center you. It doesn't take away your peace, it deepens it. It doesn't make you forget who you are, it reminds you of who you've become. And when you love from a place of wholeness, you stop romanticizing the roller coaster. You stop confusing anxiety for excitement. You stop calling unpredictability passion. You start craving peace, emotional safety, and mutual respect. You stop chasing highs and start building stability. That's when love becomes a choice, not an addiction. But love will also stretch your patience. It will expose your unhealed parts and call you to rise higher. You'll realize that the person in front of you isn't responsible for your triggers, they're revealing them. That's where healing begins. Instead of blaming, you start reflecting. Instead of reacting, you start responding. You begin to see every moment of tension as an opportunity to grow in self-control, compassion, and understanding. And the relationships that thrive aren't the ones that avoid discomfort. They're the ones that use discomfort as a bridge. When two people can sit in the tension without attacking, without withdrawing, but with curiosity, that's when trust is built. Trust isn't built in the easy days. It's built when both people decide, we'll face this together. And that's why emotional maturity is the most underrated quality in love. Without it, attraction fades into confusion and passion turns into resentment. Maturity is what keeps love grounded. It's what turns infatuation into intimacy. It's what allows two people to navigate storms without destroying the relationship in the process. Maturity says, I won't run, I'll communicate, I'll try to understand you even when I don't agree. And yet many people never reach that level because they're too busy protecting their pride. They'd rather win an argument than preserve the relationship. But love isn't a competition, it's collaboration. It's not about who's right, it's about what's right for both of you. The strongest couples are not the ones who never fight. They're the ones who never forget that they're on the same team. And love also requires forgiveness, not just of others, but of yourself. Because sometimes you'll be the one who messes up. You'll say the wrong thing. You'll shut down when you should have opened up. You'll project old pain onto new love. And you'll have to forgive yourself for the times you didn't know better. Growth means allowing yourself to be human. You can't evolve while hating who you used to be. And when you forgive yourself, you make space for better love. You stop holding on to guilt and start holding on to grace. You begin to understand that love doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness. Awareness of when to apologize, when to listen, when to let go. Love isn't about getting everything right. It's about being willing to keep trying. And that willingness, that commitment to keep showing up even when it's messy, is what separates those who struggle from those who grow. Because love isn't a fantasy you fall into. It's a skill you develop. It's something you learn, practice, and refine. Every conversation, every argument, every moment of vulnerability is teaching you how to love better. And so many people think they're unlucky in love, but luck has nothing to do with it. Love isn't found, it's created. It's crafted by two people who are willing to take responsibility for their part in it. Two people who understand that connection doesn't just happen, it's built one act of understanding at a time. And as you continue to evolve, love starts to meet you at your level. The more you grow, the more you attract people who value what you value: peace, growth, honesty, depth. Because when you become emotionally rich, you stop settling for emotional poverty. You stop mistaking attention for affection. You stop chasing people who make you feel small, and you begin to realize that love isn't about constant reassurance, it's about mutual reassurance. It's not about being chosen, it's about choosing each other every day. It's not about who completes you, it's about who aligns with the life you're creating. And that realization changes everything because you stop asking, do they love me? And start asking, does this love bring out the best in both of us? And that's the kind of love that doesn't just fill your heart, it expands it. It doesn't take away your freedom, it enhances it. It doesn't make you lose yourself. It helps you discover the version of yourself that only love could bring out. Because real love doesn't shrink you, it stretches you toward your highest self. And once you've tasted that kind of love, you'll never again settle for anything less.